everybody. We've still got some people coming through. I don't know if I actually got the thumbs up from Gus, but yep, okay, there's the thumbs up. Welcome to the Tech and Innovation for Land Care. I'm Katie Selhorst for Land Care Australia. I'm the head of landscape restoration, and I'm a chief remote drone pilot as well. So tech is at my heart a bit. Little bit for this afternoon. If you haven't been in my sessions yet, I'm a little bit of a time stickler to make sure that we can all go to other sessions. So we'll hold questions for the last 5 minutes or whenever they finish talking. And we'll walk around. We've got a few spare mics, and you can put your hand up and we'll try to get you a mic. If we don't have time for questions, we will make you find them, corner them, have a discussion later. So we've got Paul, Chantelle, and Ronald, who are going to be giving a presentation. I'm going to be a school teacher. Who are going to be giving a presentation on how cutting-edge invasive species technology is building stronger partnerships, especially programs on Kangaroo Island. I'm going to stop talking and let the fun stuff happen.
Yeah, so I apologise for the long title, but there's a lot to squeeze in. So this afternoon... Can't hear me? Is that better? No worries. So this afternoon we're just going to talk a bit about how technology is becoming increasingly important for invasive species control and eradication programs. So really this is two presentations in one, but the common theme is the technology that we're using. In this case it's Encounter Solutions Cilium Trap Alert technology. So we talk about a lot of these innovations, initiatives. Out of New Zealand recently is a huge initiative around the 2050 Predator-Free program. It sparked a lot of innovation, tech innovation. I think in Australia we're a long way behind. So we looked across the Tasman and have applied this technology, and we'll be talking about that this afternoon. What we really wanted to focus on was starting small, learning how to use the technology and being able to grow from there. And from that, we've been able to build partnerships and help us find solutions to tackle one of our biggest environmental threats, which is feral cats. So tackling this issue cannot be done alone. We will need to draw on all our knowledge and expertise, find the ways of working smarter and more efficiently to protect our wildlife, empower our communities, and benefit our economies. We need to look for solutions that work at scale, strategic and collaborative, but at the same time they need to be cost-effective, accessible and practical for all land managers. So this really all began back in 2019-20 on Kangaroo Island. And most of you are aware it was the Black Summer. It was unprecedented fire activity across lots of areas of Australia in terms of magnitude and severity. On Kangaroo Island, between December 20 and February 6, 43% of the island burned, tragically claiming 2 lives and destroying many homes. Once the fires were declared safe, we focused on our wildlife and what we could do to support their recovery in the face of this devastation. So we implemented emergency interventions to protect our most vulnerable wildlife. For example, the critically endangered Kangaroo Island dunnart, which had 95% of its habitat consumed by the fire. We deployed cameras to detect Kangaroo Island dunnarts, but it soon highlighted the urgency in around controlling feral cats, as you can see from these images. We focused initially on the unburnt refuges. This is where our cat activity, but where our wildlife was refuging as well. But it soon became apparent that cats were widespread across the whole landscape. They were moving into these unburnt areas, and they're also moving from unburnt parts of the island into the fire scar and predating on our native wildlife. The challenge that we had was there was no landscape scale tools available to us at the time. The restrictions on baiting made it pretty ineffective for us within our landscape. But cage traps on Kangaroo Island are effective. Some areas of Australia they aren't, but they're very effective on Kangaroo Island, but they're very inefficient to run at scale. So what we needed to do was find a solution that was both cost efficient and effective in this landscape to deal with this really urgent issue.
So that solution for us was the cilium technology. So as Paul said, comes from Encounter Solutions in New Zealand. So basically just some quick facts behind it, but it's a trap alert monitoring system that uses VHF to monitor the trap status. So that's basically just whether that trap is open or closed. So a monitoring device basically gets attached to that trap, which is called a node, can be attached to both a cage or a soft jaw foothold trap. And it basically uses a reed switch to detect the presence of a magnet. So that becomes like the proxy for trap status. So when that magnet's like removed from the magnetic field, so for example, a trapdoor closing, a message is sent via VHF to a gateway. So basically that's known as a hub. So that thing on the right here. And yeah, that just communicates either through 4G network or the satellite as well, if need be. And that just sends that message to the cloud, basically allowing us to know what, that status of that trap and if it's triggered. So as VHF, like it works on line of sight. So basically hubs can theoretically communicate with as many traps as possible, just really depends on your landscape and how you're using it. Really for us to say that this tech has been a game changer is really, I feel like, an understatement. I think we use that word a fair bit. But yeah, one of the reasons that large-scale trapping programs aren't normally considered effective or even feasible are due to those checking requirements. So traps need to be checked every 24 hours, obviously for animal ethical reasons. And typically we're all aware we're always limited in funding and resources, so that really limits what we can do. But what we've been able to achieve by just adding this tech has been truly phenomenal. So if you consider our trial, so in that post-fire environment, we were lucky enough to get a Landcare-led bushfire recovery grant, which funded the testing of this technology for us on the island. We were already delivering a fairly large-scale, like feral cat control program on the island. We had 3 field staff, and they were reasonably able to manage around 180 traps between the 3 of them. And we were managing an area of 17,000 hectares. So with this funding, we were able to retrofit this technology onto all of our traps, and we ran a 4-week trial. So in the first 2 weeks, we checked all traps as per usual. So one was to confirm that the tech was actually doing what it says it was doing. So for example, saying that the trap was triggered, it was actually triggered. But 2, we also were trying to gain some understanding behind our metrics and efficiencies to see what we'd gain from adding this tech. So for us 3 staff, it was taking us a combined average of 11.5 hours to go around and check the 180 traps. In the next 2 weeks, we just only checked the traps that Cilium said was triggered. So doing that took 1 staff member an average of 3.5 hours. So to do that exact same trap run. So really that's a translation of about 70% reduction in time and effort, which, when you consider that, is a massive efficiency saving. So on Kangaroo Island, we call it KI, we have a massive sheep industry. So feral cats, we're lucky enough to be free of foxes. We don't have wild dogs, we don't have rabbits. Deer, pigs and goats have been eradicated. So feral cats are really that last stronghold. And our farmers are really aware of that. So, feral cats not only impact our beautiful native biodiversity, so looking at things like the Kangaroo Island dunnart, but they also actually have some quite large agricultural impacts as well, and that's through the spreading of 2 key diseases, of which if feral cats weren't present on the island, they actually wouldn't exist. So the first is toxoplasmosis, so you might have heard of that because it also impacts human health, but in sheep does cause like loss of lamb, sheep abortions, so it really does affect that primary bottom dollar. And the other disease is sarcosporidiosis, which has caused like cysts in the meat. So Kangaroo Island meat typically, when it gets to the abattoir, has to get quite a lot trimmed because we do have a lot of sarcocysts present in the meat. So again, affecting that bottom dollar. So our landholders on the island, pretty unique. They're really keen to be empowered to do something in regards to feral cats. But as we said, it really does need to be sort of strategic and coordinated. Hadn't previously done sort of testing with the tech with landholders before, but that sort of brings us to, our case studies today. So I'm just going to quickly talk about our landholder-led trapping programs. And Paul and Ronald will be talking about how we've used our Tech and Tradition program to do a pilot program with Ron's company, Tracks in the Sand. But yeah, basically the underlying theme of the whole presentation is how we've been able to actually use this technology to increase our efficiencies, operate at landscape scales to be effective and actually have an impact on the feral cat population. So I've tried to sort of frame my case study as, like, us as practitioners, there's always some key challenges that we do see, and sort of looking at that and then sort of seeing how we've used the technology to, basically have that solution. So the first one, especially in the world of feral cats, that we often see is what can a land manager or landholder actually do to control them? And that's really, varies from state to state, depending on, again, on legislation. But for us in South Australia, you actually can't, farmers can't bait for feral cats. They can't use soft jaw leg holds because you need a ministerial exemption to use them on feral cats. Often you actually can't even shoot a cat because of some interesting legislation which is getting changed. But it basically says that you can't shoot a cat within 1 kilometre of a residence, including your own. So landholders are often actually quite hamstrung in what they can do. And so really, what does that actually leave us to do? So yeah, as we were sort of saying, cage trapping, especially for land managers, has been that essential tool. But with those checking requirements, again, it makes it really difficult. But, cage traps are accessible, they're easy for farmers to use, they can be rebaited fairly easily, and don't really require much training, so they do make a perfect tool that can be used. But then, adding the tech to it has just been a way to get around some of those checking requirements. So as a farmer, we can't obviously ask them to do so much in terms of going around and checking 10 traps in your property. That might take you a lot of hours, but knowing, hey, the one trap that's triggered over there by the dam and I'm going to go visit it later, has just been truly phenomenal. So we ran a bit of a pilot program in 2023 with a small community on the island who were bushfire impacted. So the Stokes Bay region in the north sort of area of Kangaroo Island, and we worked with them to sort of see how best to be able to roll out this tech. And so, really the next sort of challenge that I perceive is often how to be effective at scale. So rather than just focusing on really, as a person killing as many animals as possible, we really need to be carefully planned and coordinated to have that best bang for buck. Focusing on those, really measurable outcomes. So acting at scale and working together really does make pest animal control more effective. So we needed to figure out, how to go from basically, one landholder managing 10 traps on their property to a whole array of traps that can be run at the same time to have that really large reduction and effectively knock down that population to a low level. So we were able to work with 19 landholders over a period of 8 weeks together, and that was basically through some funding that came about through AgKI, so that's our peak agricultural body on the island. They received some funding through Livestock SA, which basically allowed us to purchase the tech, and we supplied the traps. We were able to work in a really coordinated fashion over multiple tenures, so it was landholders working together with us across that large area to have a fairly large reduction. So in those 8 weeks, we actually caught about 249 feral cats, so not quite 250, but almost there. That next challenge that I really do perceive is just, how to get everybody involved and how to get community involved. So, we go from that image of, the one cat, but pests are everyone's responsibility. They transcend boundaries, we have that legal obligation to control them, but how do we do that at scale and at practice? And for us was really providing that support. So us as the landscape board, we were able to work together by providing quite a few different key pieces and working then together with the landholders. So first of all, we were providing the traps, the know-how behind the tech. So obviously can't just give people this thing and not sort of teach them how it's done. So we came with the knowledge and the know-how, having already used the tech for a year or so. And working together with them to roll it out and see how they could best use it. We're also able to provide, advice in terms of placement of traps, so, where cats are most likely to be moving through in that time of the year. We're also actually able to provide then an app that sat behind it, so landholders were able to visualise, wake up and drink your coffee in the morning, refresh your app and go, oh, hey, that trap's triggered, so you know where to go. But then also they were able to record the data in it, so they were able to say what they caught in it, whether it was a cat or an off-target as well. And we were also then able to provide a bit of support in the shooting of the cats as well. But last but not least, we actually also then, if I go back to that one, we were able to do some roadside trapping in conjunction with them. So we always had staff around to be able to help them with any questions that they may have had. But yeah, now in our environment, obviously post-fire, 5 years on, that post-bushfire funding has ended, but we're actually working on an eradication program on a smaller part of the island. So for context, Kangaroo Island's actually the 3rd largest island in all of Australia, so very big, and we're tackling what seems like a quite small chunk, but is pretty large in itself. When successful, would be the world's largest feral cat eradication on an inhabited island. So 38,000 hectares, sort of seems maybe a little bit easy, but not really. We've built a feral cat exclusion fence on the narrow isthmus, so with the aim of then eradicating cats from that eastern portion as a proof of concept how it could be done for the whole of the island. So currently in the knockdown phase of this program, and yeah, we obviously engage with a lot of landholders and they're very supportive, but whether that's like allowing for monitoring access, for trapping, use of other tools such as like detection dogs or thermal shooting, but they also then again wanted to be empowered to be able to do things in their own time. So, when you're looking at that peak sort of season for trapping cats is that winter time when our farmers are often lambing. There's often concerns with biosecurity and moving on farm. So, often people might prefer to do it themselves. So how did we go about doing that? We basically used that blueprint from the year before. We took what we had learnt and provided, another like blitz style program, but on a much larger scale. So we're working with about 35 landholders who are managing themselves 115 traps in conjunction to what we were already managing on the island, which was about 500 at the same time, to really have that large scale knockdown. So basically the results of this program just really sort of, in conclusion, like serving as a blueprint for other feral cat programs nationwide, but has also that potential to be applied to other sort of species. So if you're looking at foxes or wild dogs, using cutting edge technology, but still with your traditional methods that we know work at landscape scales.
So this is the second part of our presentation where we've used technology to connect programs on Kangaroo Island and on Nookanu country in the Southern Flinders Ranges of South Australia. So this Tech and Tradition pilot program with Ronald is sharing Indigenous culture and knowledge and invasive species tools and technology to build more impactful programs. It's about how we can learn to provide training and career pathways for young Aboriginal people. So the concept was born from a conversation that we had a few years ago at a vertebrate pest conference, and we were talking about, how can we combine technology and tradition, but it took quite a few years before we could actually secure the funding to do this program, and that was through our Landscape Priorities Fund. So the programs really involve Ronald and his team travelling to Kangaroo Island and our team travelling to visit Nookanu country to share hands-on learning. So the first thing we did was work through a co-design process to map out the purpose of this technology and tradition program. The program is really initially about building a relationship towards a longer-term partnership between Kangaroo Island Landscape Board, Tracks in the Sand, Indigenous Rangers and Nookanu people. From this we can share and learn about culture and technology to help care for country together in a culturally safe way.
Afternoon everyone, I'm Ronald and I'm the owner of Tracks in the Sand. I'm from the mainland of South Australia. I identified as Nookanu and Narungga. I'll just give you a little bit of rundown on myself. Most of my life I spent in the cattle industry across South Australia and basically across Australia in the large mushroom camps, and I've never really been to school. Where I sat in the classroom where there was 4 walls. My classroom was out bush with wide open places. My teachers were old traditional Aboriginal stockmen. Back then we had a lot of old Aboriginal stockmen in the stock camps. The horses were way of transport back then, and we got to see the native animals and the feral animals up close. So anyway, that's enough about me. This is the first crew I took over to Kangaroo Island. Unfortunately, there was only four Indigenous young people there. Connie Valpro, Lynette Wilson, and a few of the other boys there. But yeah, what we did, we had 30 young fellas lined up, but due to lack of funding, we had to say no. But yeah, the first time we took them there, only took them a few days, and yeah, they caught on to the trapping techniques and the new technology pretty quick. So yeah. What do you? Okay. This is us out on country again. These images show people in the field learning about the cameras and technology which are used to detect feral cats and native animals. The middle image shows our young people, Lynette and Connie, in the office using all the software, identifying feral cats, important native animals. You want to go?
Yeah, sure. So we use Avorta AI software to support our network of 280 4G-enabled cameras on the island. So on average, they take about 34,000 images every 24 hours. But it's extremely... Sorry. Sorry, yeah. So the network provides near real-time detections of feral cats and other priority species that we're interested in, which is critically important for informing our on-ground actions where our targeted trap effort goes, where we send our ground shooters or detection dogs. These cameras have been set up to work really well in remote areas. So there's solar panels, they have high-gain antennas. We also program them to send daily health checks, so we know when they're not working, but we also know when we need to plan essential maintenance as well.
But yeah, these photos showing our young people learning the different trapping techniques used on Kangaroo Island. You can see here some dirt to cover the traps. That's Connie setting the traps and setting them off. We did catch a cat in the trap while he was there. We caught, I think, about 4 actually. But like I said, they took to it quite easily, and they was just naturals. Hopefully one day we can get 30 of the guys over there and, getting a few more guys into employment.
So yeah, Chantelle showed a map of the Dudley Peninsula before, and this is our trap array that we have set up on the peninsula, so using the cilium trap technology. So we connect both cage and soft jaw leg hold traps, and this technology has allowed us to manage up to 1,000 traps simultaneously in the landscape with the existing resources that we have, which is insane really when you think about it. But most importantly, we focus on our trapping techniques. We have a really skilled and experienced team, and we really focus on teamwork because it's not easy work, eradicating a species. There's a lot of blanks, there's a lot of downtime, and it's a real grind, but having this technology has really provided the motivation that we need for our team to push on.
Yeah, I agree with Paul there. If you don't know what you're doing and you start mucking around with traps and trying to trap animals, you're just making a trap smart animal if the animals set them off. But this is just sitting out on country going, ask the young fellas to pull up for a little while and just reflect back on the day, what they was doing, what have they learnt out of it. Just getting to, ask them, what do you think about the lay of the land? Sort of giving them a sentence and letting them fill it in for me, and it really helps out. This is Chantelle and Josh. They're teaching us about new techniques in the feral animal game. Then you got Brenton, he's a gun, this fella, who was learning about night vision, all the latest technology, what it takes to, if you're going to look for animals at night, eh? So,
Yes, let's skip to the next one, Roll. Go.
Where's that? And also, this is a photo of our country, Nookana country, in the Southern Flinders Ranges. We've got quite a few talented people down there at the moment where, just starting up a Rangers program. Darren Purdy's in the crowd here at the moment. He's our Ranger coordinator. And we have our cultural burning. We have our seawater frontline. Yeah, we got a whole range of talented people to help out, and yeah, hopefully we can get more people involved. And what we're doing here with all the latest technology, this can really take off.
Just click on the next one. We've got
This one here. How do you do this here?
You go.
Oh, what are we doing? This bit of a map here. I'll talk my way. This bit of a map here. This is all my country and family, all the Nookana country mob, you know? All the southern Flinders, and yeah, where you can see where there's some little red dots there, that's where we're set up on the country, and yeah, hopefully we can get a lot more in there.
Yeah, so this shows the coverage modelling that we set up prior to setting up a tech demonstration site in the Southern Flinders. So really good desktop exercise. You can see the hub that's modelled there, and the green shading is the expected coverage of the technology. So yeah, hubs are really easy to install. They can be mounted on fence posts. They can be hoisted in towers. On Kangaroo Island, we don't have many hills or mountains, so we use them in trees. So they're really simple. They just have, they connect using phone coverage to gather information from traps in the field, but they rely on VHF really, so it's very low power, very efficient as well. And this is the young Nookanu people setting up the hub at that modelled location at a really prominent high point. We're going to run out of time, aren't we?
Yeah, you're out. You're out. We've got people coming in. I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
This is seriously amazing. I wish we had more time. It's fantastic. The scale. Oh, is this working? All right. I don't think my...
Need half an hour, 45 minutes.
It's not working good. Oh, there it is. Okay. I highly encourage you, have conversations with them. We don't have time for any questions. We do need to move into another room and get another session in. But please, continue conversations.